Hi guys, welcome back to Hearn Family Homestead. I'm Amanda and I am super excited to show you what came in the mail. This is a Greenstalk planter. Many of you are familiar with these. And it stacks, it's got 5 tiers. Each one has pockets in it that you can put an individual plant in or a few carrots or something like that. This particular one is the leaf Greenstalk. So I'm super excited about this to get it set up and start using it. And I actually got this as a gift from my mom. She didn't know that I wanted one, and I actually had one in my cart. I talked myself out of it at the last minute, and then a week later this shows up on my doorstep. So I thought maybe I had hit the wrong button, but it turns out that it was from my mom. So I'm super excited about that. And just so you know, I'm in no way affiliated with Greenstalk. They are a great family-owned company, but I am very excited about their product. I'm also going to give you guys a little update tour on our garden. I did have to put up some shade cloth. It's been super hot here. We're expecting triple digits again today and tomorrow. And I've never had to use shade cloth before. So we just pulled out what we had. It's not ideal shade cloth. Ideally you want something that's a lot more porous than what I have, so that the evaporation doesn't get caught underneath. But for a temporary fix, it should be fine. If we continue to get really hot weather, I'll probably get some tulle and use that instead. The soil for these Greenstalks is super important. You want to get your hands on it and make sure that it can hold some moisture, and it's a super good quality. You want a potting mix, and this one has some natural organic fertilizer in it. So you want to make sure that you get the best quality soil that you can to fill these tiers with. So I've got it all set up. It took 3 3/4 bags, and my bags are 1 cubic foot each, so that gives you kind of an idea. I do have some extra in case it settles, which I do think that the soil will settle over time, and I'll show you how it works. The top part is the water reservoir. It's got emitter holes to water these top pockets, and then it also has a center hole, and the water will overflow and feed down to the rest of the water reservoirs underneath these lower tiers. And you want to fill it until the water runs out this tube in the bottom. That will show you that it has enough and it's gotten through all of the tiers. Right now I have the plug in the bottom tube, but we'll take that out. They say not to leave it in for more than a week. So it's the end of July now, which is actually the perfect time to plant some fall greens and brassicas, which is what I'll be doing in this. All the sunflowers are loving the heat. Looking beautiful. Here's our eggplants. They've got some blooms on those. And the onions are still growing. You can see that zucchini that I started is getting a little taller. And the yellow squash down there at the end. And then this is called curly dock. It's considered a weed, but it's edible, and I'm going to be making fermented plant juice out of it to use as a fertilizer for the rest of the garden. Our tomatoes have been dropping blossoms with all the heat. So what I did was my husband had some extra canvas, and we strung that over between the 2 trellises. We just wanted to give everything a little more shade during the day, and it should help the tomatoes not to drop their blossoms and actually to set on fruit. We haven't had a lot of wind, and so since tomatoes are wind pollinated, what I've been doing is just tapping the trellis on the tomato plants, kind of shaking it a little bit and getting that pollen moving so that we can get some pollination and some fruit set on the tomatoes. Some of our earlier tomatoes have set on. This one is an early girl. And then we've got our Bonnie's Best right here setting on fruit. Our corn was falling over. It's starting to tassel out, and it started falling over. And one thing that I found was down here at the bottom. Looks like we've got some root damage here, and it's these top ones that kind of spread out and hold the corn up. So something's eating the roots, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not one of these little guys right here. So we've got our corn tied up and we'll see if we get anything off of it. We do have 1 or 2 forming here. And then back behind the corn here we have another Bonnie's Best that's got some small fruits setting on. I just wanted to show you what blossom drop looks like. You can see there's some blooms on this tomato here. And then back here behind that one, there's one that has bloomed but is starting to yellow at the joint here. And it just comes off super easy. And if I hadn't pulled that off, it would have shriveled up and dried up and then fallen off on its own. There's one right here that has dried. And just falls off really easy. This is the bed of turnips and beets that I replanted a while back. There's some radishes mixed in, and it's gotten a little bit of slug damage, but we planted thick, so I expect most of them to make it, and we'll sprinkle with diatomaceous earth if we need to. The elephant in the room, or should I say the elephant in the garden, is this absolutely huge squash plant. Volunteer, we let it grow, and it has just taken over. All this is from one tiny little plant. It's overtaken my compost pile and the wheelbarrow, and it was even yesterday it was reaching towards the handle of my husband's shop there. We cut that back, but I'm gonna have to be fairly ruthless in getting in here and just trimming some of these vines that don't have fruit on them yet, just to kind of keep it out of the garden because it really wants to come in and take over. I have figured out what kind it is. It's actually an Oregon sweetmeat, which we are extremely happy about because that is our favorite squash. And you can tell it's got the shape of the sweetmeat. We have picked 1 bouquet from our zinnias, and we've got some more setting on here. So those are doing great. The cucumbers are starting to vine out and bloom, so we should have cucumbers soon. I did leave some Napa cabbage around this area just as a trap crop for the slugs. And we're still using the slug traps and diatomaceous earth to kind of combat that. The nasturtiums are doing great. We even have some blooms coming on. And then we're starting to get a few green beans off of these plants, off the jade bush beans there. And this is another example of why I need to trim back this squash. It's just overtaken everything that it can. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Be sure and like and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see the rest of our videos, and we will catch you on the next one.